Alright, welcome. I've been asked to talk a little bit about my build, and I think it's quite interesting, so it's worth discussing it. First of all, the main thing about the build is obviously the Decompose on the Corpsewade boots. It's a skill, and we're trying to scale the poison from the Decompose in this build. I was actually using Hexblast on a Blood Mage before, but I found it really hard to scale the damage so that I could do bosses. Like, mapping was fine, I could kill everything, pretty much one shot everything, and the Corpsewade would take care of the rest. So that was actually a really nice setup, but for bosses it was very hard to scale it because Hexblast, if you get higher levels, the mana cost or life cost on Blood Mage becomes really high. It is possible. I'll link actually someone who did manage to do it, if you are more interested in that. But for me, I really liked the boots, and I was really thinking of how to make a build around that. And I did some research and I found some other builds, and then I ended up making my own. I'll also link in the description like all the guys that gave me inspiration to make this build, because maybe it will suit your playstyle a little bit better, or you like something that they are doing a little bit better than what I'm doing. Alright, so then I made the Pathfinder because to make the Corpsewade build, because mainly because of overwhelming toxicity, double the number of poisons that target can be affected at the same time. Alright, double the number of poisons. So basically, you can have maximum of 5 stacks normally. With this node, you can get 10. So you can get 10 poison stacks at the same time. I think most people understand the main concept of the build, but I'll just go over it really shortly. Like, on my second weapon set, I have brutes, and why do we use brutes? We use brutes because they have the most HP, and Decompose works because it works off the corpse's maximum life. So you want to use corpses with most life possible. That can be just normal mobs. Normal corpses work just fine, but obviously you don't have the corpses when you engage the enemy or when you're bossing. So that's why we have the brutes, because the brutes are the minions that have the most life. So we have skeletal brutes, and we use sacrifice to be able to use the brutes for casting Decompose. So if I move, you see they get consumed and we get the poison cloud. And that's basically how this build works, like the main concept of it, right? Alright, let's talk about the main strengths of the build first, and then we'll talk about the weaknesses. First of all, the first main strength of this build is it can do all the content, right? It can kill all the bosses. It is a great mapper. It absolutely wipes maps really fast, and I have some showcases for that. And it also kills all the bosses really fast. Like, I don't know how much DPS is, but honestly it's like between 2 and 5 million. It depends a little bit. It's a lot. It's more than enough. And like, not all builds can do bosses and maps just as well, or simulacrums, and this build can do it all. That makes it really enjoyable. Right, the second advantage of this build is that it uses Grimfeast, and obviously like everyone's using Grimfeast, but what we need to scale our damage is minion skill level, right? Because minion skill level increases the level of the brute, which increases the life of the brute, and that scales our damage, right? But Grimfeast is actually a minion skill. So because we have we want minion skill on the helmet, we want minion skill on the amulet, and we want minion skill on the scepter, we get a lot of Grimfeast levels, and that makes it so that our Grim Feast recovers almost 900 energy shield, which you can scale even more if you get higher level gems, and if you can get, for example, maybe a trench timber on your main hand and the scepter on the offhand. So this can scale even way higher, and it's basically makes it so that we don't have to worry about recharge. We don't have to worry about recharge speed or anything like that. It just makes us get insane amounts of energy shield. And the great thing about it is that we can get that energy shield at any time, because we get remnants from our minions. So we can overflow before a boss fight or before we start a map, which is like the, always the most dangerous point. When you start a map, you don't have overflow. We can just get it. So Grim Feast scales with our build incredibly well. The third point is that this build absolutely maximizes the utility of weapon swap. Weapon swap is actually incredibly strong because you just get basically 24 extra skill points to spend. And this build is perfect for that, because on our first weapons set we use a lot of like extra curse damage, extra curse range, and like just so utility, like some block, right? Some block chance, movement speed, and that makes it so that we don't have to use it on our second set. And on our second set we can focus on minion life, because we want to scale the damage of minion life, and we get some increased duration, so our poison cloud from Decompose lasts longer, and we get some more damage that we don't really need on our like when we're mapping, right? So this is just basically mainly for bosses, the swap, or like when we engage a group of monsters, but you don't need that much damage. It's a bit overkill. So we just put all these points, like these ones and these ones and these ones, all on our second weapon set together with the life of the minions, to get like the maximum damage on that set. And then we have so much points to spare on the first one. Alright, so that's another very good benefit of this build. It fully utilizes weapon swap. The fourth big benefit of this build is that there's a lot of multiplicatives at work here. Like multiplicative scaling instead of additive is a big benefit, and we're scaling a lot of axes, like we're scaling of obviously the decomposed gems, but also chaos damage. Chaos damage works, it increases the damage, so you can get a wand with chaos damage. It will scale your damage just fine, or just nodes on the tree. Magnitude of ailment scales our damage, and magnitude of ailments also scales shock, right? And we'll get to that a little bit later. Wither scales our damage, so you want to have wither. We apply wither with Eye of Winter. I'll talk about that a bit later. Damaging ailments deal damage faster, scales our damage. Poison stacks obviously is like another axis. We can get 10 poison stacks, and that's also a lot of damage. Minion life helps us, and all that stuff. It's so many avenues to like increase our damage. There's always something that we can increase, and that just makes it the damage go off the charts. And the last benefit is that the gear is relatively cheap. Like, I don't have cheap gear, but you can make this work with really cheap gear. It's because we don't care about a lot of stuff that other people care about. For example, we only care about, on this one, we only care about chaos damage. We don't care about spell damage, extra spell level. Could be kind of nice, but it's like meh. It doesn't improve it that much. So we just can put on some resist and some chaos damage, and we're good. And those are, this one's not that cheap, but you can get a pretty cheap one and it will work just fine. Or just get a wand with a little bit of chaos damage. You don't need spell damage. You don't actually need the chaos level spells, just the chaos damage. And because this build works on quite a big range, You don't need that many defenses, especially when you're mapping. Everyone melts around you. You can show the videos where I showcase that. So you really don't need that much defenses. So you can just focus on getting the minion level up, and yeah, you can rock. That being said, you can invest a lot of money and get this even higher, but it's not really mandatory. All right, let's go over the gems, and after that we will talk a little bit about the weaknesses. Okay, let's talk about the weaknesses actually first, and then we'll talk about the gems. But yeah, there's two main weaknesses of this build. One is that, our Corpsewade boots only have 10% movement speed. And obviously we want to move fast because that's just great quality of life. I was actually really lucky. I corrupted these myself and I got 4% movement speed. You can get up to 5% movement speed if you corrupt it. It's obviously very rare. They're very expensive. It's something I want to get, but like it's definitely not mandatory because 4% is not even that much, right? But obviously you do want to get that if you can. But yeah, it's more luxury. But that's also why we're using Pathfinder, because we have a lot of nodes to our availability that we can use. Like these ones, for example, will give movement speed. This is already 8% movement speed. And I actually want to get these ones. I have had these before, but I moved out of it because I needed something else. But yeah, you can definitely get these. And once I get a bit higher level, I'll grab these just for the movement speed. And then we can also get this one. It gives us movement speed. Those are important ones. But like as a Pathfinder, this one's obviously really great and you want it. And we get more access to all the magnitude, but also some movement speed. So that offsets our main disadvantage. That's also why I'm using a scepter right now on my first set, just for the spirit to run blink. What you can also use once you start using a shield, you don't have to use a shield honestly, but a shield is really nice. It just gives a lot of survivability, especially for Simulacrum 4. Honestly, for anything else, it's not really needed. So you can just run a focus with shadow damage and some resist. It's fine. But this is just a luxury. Honestly, and I got a really great one, so I'm happy with it. So our main disadvantage is weakness, I guess, is movement speed, and you fix it by getting the nodes and getting a corrupted thing. And then our movement speed is 90%. This is how fast we move. It's not great, but it's definitely all right. I can definitely live with it. And it's actually a perfect speed where everything dies around the same speed. Like if you go too fast, you end up anyway that monsters haven't died yet and you're there already. Yeah. The second main weakness is there are monsters that sometimes ignite your clouds, your poison clouds. And that is kind of annoying because you have to apply the poison again to get them to die. But there is a workaround for that for mapping, and I'm using that. And I'm also working on for like Simulacrum, it's the most dangerous, but there it doesn't happen that many times. And I also have a kind of a workaround for that. And we'll talk about that a little bit later when we talk about gems. Well, actually, let's talk about gems now then. It's actually a good time to talk about it. Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna mark the time so I can stamp the video. All right, gems. So what I normally run for mapping and for Simulacrum is Magnified Fact for just a bigger area, and Magnitude Poison and damage, extra chaos damage. I'm pretty sure this works. I have not tested this yet. I should test this, but a lot of people are using it and saying it works, so I'm kind of counting on that, but I should test it myself. And persistence to just make it last longer. Like on my, like I have 10 seconds, it lasts for 10 seconds, which is great, because that means that I can put down a cloud, and if the timer hits 5, I can put down another one when I'm in combat. That means that I have 4 times 2 is 8 instant clouds, which is the maximum of this setup. And this is for mapping. And for bossing, I switch this out. I put, instead of persistence, I put comorbidity to have 10 stacks, and I put concentrated effect instead of magnified effect. For bossing, this is the mapping and simulacrum one. This is the bossing setup. You just get a lot more damage, and the bosses die even faster. Right, before we go further, I want to talk a little bit. Okay, I was a little bit interrupted by my kid. Let's continue. All right, until we continue with talking about the gems, I want to explain a little bit how I set up the build. The main thing I did was put a lot of AoE. Like my main, it's also the main difference that I have with most builds. Like I focus a lot of AoE because the thing is that if you use contagion, you can spread your poisons without having to use the cloud. And AoE benefits a lot. This build benefits a lot from AoE because if the initial, like if we look at this, like the initial explosion radius, if this hits the first mob that you want to kill and the next pack, then they will immediately get a contagion because we're using cast on minion death, and the contagion will immediately get on a poisoned monster and immediately spread because they will die instantly pretty much, and then the contagion will spread really fast and really far. So we're using this setup on mapping. Contagion. Honestly, the level doesn't really matter. It's just for spreading the poison. It's just a bit of extra damage. You can quality it, get it high. It doesn't really matter. It will add a little bit damage, but we don't do it for the damage. We do it for the spread. And we use hinder, and we use encumbrance to make them even slower because we're also running despair and what's it called? Temporal chains. But this makes it so that if you see it casts contagion when the monsters die, the cloud will immediately hit a mob, it will immediately get contagion, and it will spread like wildfire. And I have like a showcase of that on one of my videos. How we achieve that is by having, you can do it 2 ways. Either you have a lot of jewels with increased area of effect. I have like pretty much area of effect on all my jewels. But if you don't have that, that's fine. You can just move, forget about this whole thing and put it in here and get to this wheel where you can get a lot of area of effect. And also you can get minion life here, which is also great. So this whole area is actually pretty great for us. But yeah, for me, it wasn't worth it anymore. But if you don't have the jewels, it's great. So because of that area of effect, we can spread. Our contagion also has a great range of 2.5 meter. So it will spread very far and very fast. Alright, let's continue with the gems now. So Decompose we know. Cast on minion death, so I switched these, right? So if you have enough spirit, you could run them both. Or you can use like this setup, which I use for bossing, contagion, ball of lightning, lightning warp, and overcharge. You can also use it on mapping, but I prefer having the contagion and the hinder and encumbrance, right? I don't mind switching out these two, so I just like disable this one, enable this one, and then I have the other setup. Why is this great? We're using Ball of Lightning together with Lightning Warp, and it will create Shocked Ground. And that's also why our AoE is great, by the way, because it also skills the radius of Shocked Ground, I believe. So, and we use Overcharge to increase the shock value. And that's also what's so great about this build, is that there's a lot of stuff that we use that like it skills different aspects that we're using. So AoE skills are Contagion, it skills are Shocked Ground, and it skills are it affects our cloud, right? And we have, for example, Magnitude of Ailments that we use on our jewels. Increase magnitude of ailments you inflict. That works on our poison, obviously, but it also works on our shocked ground. So our shock is at 60% at the moment. So that's another 1.6 times the damage, right? If I understand that correctly. So yeah, that is great for bossing. Like you don't need it for mapping at all. It's nice for simulacrum, but and for bossing. But for mapping, you absolutely don't need that. Okay. Grim Feast, obvious choice. I explained already why it's an incredible asset in this build. Skeletal Brute. We want the Meat Shield for more life, and the Minion Mastery and Physical Mastery, because it's a physical and a minion. Both give it extra levels. More levels equals more HP. More HP equals more damage, because that's our base damage. Alright, we're running on the first weapon set, we're running Blasphemy. Obvious choice, because we have a lot of spirit, what to do with it. Put some curses on. Less skills resist makes it so our cloud does more damage. Temporal Chains, I think Temporal Chains is like way better than Enfeeble. I'm not sure why some people think Enfeeble is better. This slows both action speed and movement speed, so it's incredibly strong. It just lowers their damage of the mobs, so I think it lowers the damage honestly just as much as Enfeeble, and also slows them. So I don't see any scenario where you would use Enfeeble. Maybe when you have a debuff or you can't affect enemies or something, but with slow. But otherwise, I would always use Temporal Chains. I've tried Enfeeble, but this is just better in my opinion. Heightened Curse to get a bit more effect, because we get a little bit less effect for it being in Blasphemy instead of being a normal cast. That's also a way how you could make this build even better, is to apply the curses, right? Because if you apply the curses, you get a lot more chaos resistance loss on the enemy, and then your cloud will do even more damage. But I'm just lazy, so I put it in Blasphemy, and that works fine. Increase area effect, also great. Okay, Eye of Winter, we only use it on a boss. If we're fighting a boss, to apply Wither. That's the only reason we have Eye of Winter. We put this one Unleash in, so we have 2 of them. And Withering Touch to get the Wither on them, and Deceleration to get the projectile to move slower, so we can have even more projectiles to make it more Wither. I'll show you, like, all these projectiles apply Wither, so that's easily 10 stacks of Wither, which in my case is 80% more damage taken for the mob. Great way to scale damage. I have Withering Presence, you don't really need it. I don't know what to put in here else. You could put Shield Charge, I guess, if you want a bit more mobility. But I don't really like Shield Charge myself, so I put in Withering Presence. But you could actually, I've run Dark Effigy. Dark Effigy, why would you run it? It's just because if you put it in Simulacrum or something, or in a boss fight, the boss dies too fast at this point. But earlier in the build, when you don't do that much damage, you can put down a Dark Effigy, and monsters will target it, and that's pretty nice. And if you have 10 stacks on, it will fire insane amount of projectiles, so that's also a bit more damage. It's another option for this. I don't know what else to put there. For me, Withering Presence is fine. Blink, just for mobility. I put Ingenuity for cooldown, cast speed, and this is an optional one. You either have this one for 2 charges, or you have like less cooldown for 1 charge. Okay, that is the gems. So let's talk about the passive tree. Alright, here we go. So let me first talk about the jewels. What you want on jewels is actually a lot of these I previously used on my Blood Mage Hexblast. That's why it has critical damage. You don't need critical damage. You can replace these with better ones. But what you want is area of effect. At least if you want my version, you want area of effect, right? If you want to be a great mapper and bosser, right? You want the area of effect to have great mapping capability to spread the contagion super fast. Increase magnitude of ailments. That's good for our shock and good for our poisons. Duration of damaging ailments, good for our poisons. Let's see. Magnitude, duration. Chaos damage is good for us. Air effect, increased skill effect duration. Increased air effects, magnitude, duration. Wither, you want some jewels with wither, because like it's such an easy way to get more damage. Like 60% versus 80% is a lot, right? So yeah, just get a few with wither. Honestly, ideally you want to get it to 100%, but 80 is fine. It's up to you. Oh yeah, you want to fuel jewels with gain 8% like maximum energy as additional stun threshold, just so we can't get stunned. I use 3 at the moment. It makes me pretty much invulnerable to stun most of the time, unless you have like insane modifiers. But yeah, like this is fine. And also like most monsters don't get close to you, so stun is not really that important, but having a few is good. Wither, good again. The 1% recover is bullshit. Here, effects. Again, energy as additional stun. Magnitude of ailments. Magnitude, duration, and a shield stun. And then another great jewel you can get is a ruby with minion life. Block chance, if you use a shield, it's great. And area of effect. Yeah, so these are the only ones that can give minion life. And minion lives are base damage, almost, well not exactly, but sort of our base damage. So those are great. Like I probably should replace like the chaos damage one, for example, this one with one of these. All right, those are the jewels. Talk about the tree real quick. Again, first weapon set, you can use it for some more area. Why would you use area on the first one? Because if you start the chain and you use the corpses of the enemies you've killed, just more AoE, more AoE, more AoE makes your contagion spread further, your cloud's larger. You don't ever have to switch to your second weapon set if you have enough AoE pretty much, right? And you have enough density of monsters, right? If you have this AoE and this wheel, which I had earlier, you don't ever need to switch to your, like only rare case you need to switch to your second set to spawn your minions, because you just have so much AoE and the contagion and the cloud will just spread all over, and it will kill everything. Another utility is just increase our curses, the effectiveness of our curses on the first website, movement speed and block chance. Like you can for simulacrum you kind of want these ones. You just switch out these two because you don't need movement in simulacrum, so you put it in these two, for example. And on the second set, you use just extra damage, because you want as much damage as possible on your second set, because it's for killing bosses mainly. You don't need all the damage for mapping or for like normal engagement of normal mobs. And you want minion life also for extra damage on your first one, and skill effect duration, because having the cloud last longer gives you a lot of window to cast minions again, and to put on another cloud, so you have 100% cloud uptime basically from Decompose, right? That's what you want. Oh yeah, Wither, you also put on the first set, because you do the minions, you put the cloud, you have the shocked ground, and then you switch to your first set with the auras, with the curse auras, and then you put on Wither. So we have Wither on our first weapon set. Okay, I think, yeah, you could go this way for more defense. It's probably something I kind of want to do if I get a bit more points. But yeah, so far I've been pretty safe, not dying. Right, I forgot about the weakness of the burning monsters. Let me mark this. Yeah, so sometimes you encounter monsters that that explode your clouds of poison because they do some kind of fire damage thing. I don't know exactly actually what they do. I don't even know what the exact modifier is, but there are monsters that explode your clouds. That's all I know. And how to counteract that is by having the contagion and having the great AoE range. We can just put down the cloud, it will instantly hit the mob, it will instantly get contagion, and then it will spread with contagion instead of the cloud. So if your cloud explodes immediately after it gets put down, it doesn't matter. You've put poison on the monster has contagion, that shit's gonna spread, they're all gonna die. So that is our counter for that weakness. That's why this build is one of the better implementations, I think, of it, because it's really annoying if you encounter one of those monsters and you have no way of getting to them or getting the poison on them. And this is just like a great way that I've even ran like burning ground maps, which are absolutely impossible if you don't run this setup with this build, right? And like it's no problem at all. All right. All right, quickly about gear. My gear is honestly pretty insane, but you don't need that, okay? Let me stress that you don't need great gear. I did it with shit gear. It worked perfectly fine. But yeah, you do want snake bite if you can, if you have enough, like if you don't really need the slot for bosses, because it gives +1 poison, which is 2+2 poisons for us. So yeah, we want that. We don't care about chaos resistance. We don't care about the chance to poison. So you just want the corrupted one with 2 sockets, and you put in whatever you want, like plus all elemental resist is better. But like for me, it doesn't really matter. I have too many resists already. Ingenuity is nice to have, and chaos damage on your ring is nice. It's absolutely not needed, okay? It's fine to run, instead of this thing, don't have blink, put in a wand with 100% chaos damage, and you have the same effect as what I have here, right? And you just put resistance belt and resistance rings on, and that works fine. And I have a rarity. I have a lot of rarity. That's something I'm like, but again, that's completely not needed. I mean, a bit of rarity is nice, but I'm at 170, which is a bit overkill already, I think. Just because I have this one, and it gives 50%, and I have the ingenuity, so it's like a bit more. And some rarity, I think, here and here. But it's just luxury, right? So you want minion level on your amulet, minion level on your helmet, minion level on your scepter, but also minion level on this. Why? Because of Grim Feast, right? Just makes Grim Feast better. So probably I should get like a plus level 5. Okay. Shield is great. Just makes you incredibly survivable. Block is amazing. It's like amazing. Just get some block nodes and high block chance shield, and yeah, it's for Simulacrum. It's the best. Like, you don't really need it anywhere else. No, I don't think so. No. Okay, Decompose obviously. Corpsewade with movement, ideally. Yeah, I think that's mainly the gear. Okay, I think we covered pretty much everything. we have one skill, which is which I have winter that we use, and blink, and you could like oh yeah, that's something you could do actually. What I did, you can replace this with contagion and just cast contagion yourself, while you're like killing monsters and killing them. Just putting contagion on. When you're breaching, it is nice because sometimes you want, like, just having the contagion from the corpses is not enough, so you put contagion here and you spread contagion yourself and you put it on your mouse one. Okay, I think that covers everything. If you have questions, just let me know. I'll be happy to answer. Thank you for watching.